Hallelujah. Amen. Amen. Thank God so much for you this evening. I missed y'all. Amen. It's good to see everybody. I want to thank staff and team and preachers and servant leaders for making sure everything stays together while the pastor is away. I appreciate that. Come on, give staff, preachers, servant leaders a round of applause. All volunteers. I thank God for each and every one of them. I am always thankful to the Lord to have the privilege to go home, and this was particularly one that needed to happen because y'all have heard me talk a lot about Miles and his transition as he'll be going down there in August, but it just kind of hit me after he graduated on June 9th that this may be the last time that all five of us will be together, and if there was going to be a time to go to Texas, then this will be the time to go. And my grandmother was sure enough just tickle pink to have her great-grandchildren there, and Layla and Lena, they were in the kitchen, and they made some biscuits. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. They actually tasted better than my grandmother's, but I wasn't gonna tell my grandma that. I said, Grandma, you gave them the recipe too good, amen. But we had a good time, and glad to be back here in Philadelphia. There's a word tonight from the Lord that I want to share with you. And if you don't mind turning with me to the book of Psalms, chapter 22. And I'm going to read some verses from the King James Version. I'm going to read verses 1 and 2 of Psalm 22. Then we're going to skip down to verse 9 through 11, verses 9 through 11. But let's begin first with Psalm 22, verse 1. My God, David says, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night, but I find no rest. Verse 9, yet you brought me out of the womb. You made me trust in you. Even at my mother's breast, from birth I was cast on you. From my mother's womb you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help. I want to stop right there at verse 11. He says, do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help. I want to talk tonight, beloved, from the subject of my God, why? My God, why? I never shall forget that Sunday morning in Atlanta, Georgia, when I received a phone call from my stepmother informing me that my father, who was 48 years old, had made his transition. I was a sophomore in college, merely 19 years old. And I never shall forget receiving that news that my father, at 48 years old, was now gone. I was shaken in my bed, having received the call around 5 o'clock in the morning. I was shaken because I did not know why God would do such a thing, given the fact that my father and I were finally starting to redevelop our relationship. We were finally starting to reconnect. We were finally starting to have what every child desires to have, that father-son relationship. Why was it that God would take away my daddy? You see, like some of you who are here tonight, I am a child of divorced parents. I cannot recall my parents ever living together. I do not recall my waking up and my father being there. But what I do recall is that my mother, she struggled to put my brother and I through school. My mother, she struggled to make sure I became the first college graduate. Yes, I recall my mother doing everything that she possibly could so that one at least one of her sons would be able to make it. And here it is. I was a sophomore at Morehouse College, and my father had passed away. On that fateful Sunday morning, I was struggling because on the one hand, I wanted to go to church because that's what you do. But on the other hand, I was struggling because I was mad at God for what he did. And see, if you're really honest with yourself tonight, there are moments in which you really raise the question why to God. There are moments in which you ask God, why did you do this to me? Yes, beloved, I want you to know tonight that all of us who are here, we go through these moments in which we ask God these painful and these tough questions. Why? My God, why hast thou forsaken me? In fact, when you look here in this text, what makes this text so powerful is that we come in contact with a brother by the name of David. Yes, David is a king. David is a warrior. David is one who's been on the battlefield for the Lord. But even David, even with all of his regality and all of the things that made him a fine warrior and a fine king, even David finds himself asking God that fateful question, why? You see, what I've come to discover, doesn't matter what title you have, doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter who you think you are, it doesn't matter where you were born, doesn't matter who your parents are. Everybody at some point or another will have to deal with the fateful question of why. Yes, why is a question that we all have to answer at some point in our lives. All of us raise that question that pierces deep within ourselves because at some point we find ourselves at a why moment. Somebody knows what a why moment is. It may be the fact that you lost your wife. You've been asking why. It may be the fact that you lost your husband. You've been asking why. It may be the fact that you lost your father, lost your mother. You're asking why. It may be the fact that you lost even your child, or you lost your job, or you lost your home, or you lost your hope, or you lost your desire to keep on living. Is there anybody in here tonight who can testify at least one point or another in my life I have asked God why? Yes, it could be the fact that when you ask these questions of why, that it really is a question not so much even for God, but even for yourself. You see, some of us, we come to church and we know how to praise God. We know how to lift up holy hands. We know how to sing the songs. We know how to give the prayer. But it's not until your faith is really tested that God can really see if you are who you really say that you are. And see, what I've come to discover about some of us is that on Sunday mornings, we're just playing church. Yes, we're standing up on our feet, but we're playing church. Yes, we know how to come up here and pray, but we're playing church. But it's not until your back is up against the wall. It's not until you have no other place to go. It's not until you find yourself deep down on your knees and asking God why. Those are the moments that God is looking for, to see who you're really made of. And it's here that we find David beginning to ask this question, why? He says here in this text, he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Do you hear it right there? It's not why did you forsake them, but why did you forsake me? You see, we can deal with the fact when somebody else has lost their home. Oh, it's so bad they lost their house. But it's a different story when it's me. Oh, it's one thing when you see people on your job and they have to pack up their boxes and they're leaving because they got laid off. Oh, I feel so sorry for them. But it's another thing when you're the one who didn't even get a chance to pack up your boxes, but they just told you to leave. They're going to ship your stuff to you. And you're saying, God, how could you do this to me? You see, many of us who are here tonight, we struggle with this because we are asking God, God, if I've been so faithful, God, if I come to church, God, if I give my tithes and offerings, God, if I come to God Talks, if I come to Recharge, God, why is this happening to me? And I'm glad that you're asking that question because you're not the only one who's ever asked that question before. Oh, you don't believe me? Let me go ahead and call a witness here tonight. Come here, Job. You see, Job was faithful. Job had everything. Job was religious. Job knew how to pray. Job was a faithful man after God's own heart. But the Bible shares with us that when Satan was looking for somebody to torment and to challenge somebody and to test somebody, that God said, how about my servant Job? You see, God knows that there are certain type of people who are built for the things that come in their lives. You see, sometimes you got to stop sitting up and saying, why? And saying, God, now I understand why you chose me. Because what God may be doing is using your story to help encourage somebody else. You see, I wish I had a few people in here today who can testify that I did not like what God was putting me through. But now I can testify that if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, tell me, where shall I be? While we were there in Texas, I had to go see my cousin Tina. Tina, I love her dearly because growing up, Tina was the older cousin who would take us to the skating ring. Sunday nights in Austin, Texas, we would make our way out on 290 and make our way highway and make our way to the skating ring. Oh, I want y'all to know I could skate. Oh, I was smooth. I could go side to side. I could spin around. I could skate backwards. Oh, I had it going on. And when I went to go see my cousin Tina, who was just outside of Houston, Texas, and Katy, Texas, when I saw her, I had to ask God, why? Because here it is, my cousin who was once the queen of a pageant for churches in the city. Now she is struggling because her breast cancer has now metastasized to her throat. Here it is, her neck was all red and it was all purple, and she's going through a painful moment. She can't even eat anything. She can't even really swallow even water because it's too painful. She has a tube that's going down into her stomach so that she can get the sustenance that she needs so that she can be able to survive and to still be alive. As I looked at my cousin Tina, I remembered a few years ago that she had shared with everybody she wanted to start a business called Believe in Miracles. And as I looked at Tina there in this rehab facility, I said, Tina, I want you to know that you started a business called Believe in Miracles. I said, but now God is using you to be the miracle. Oh, I wish I had a witness in here tonight. You see, it's one thing to say that you believe in something. It's another thing for you to be a testimony of what a miracle looks like. And all I'm trying to get somebody here to see tonight is that sometimes when you're going through the wild moments of life, it's because God is going to use your testimony to show somebody what the Lord can do for you if you keep the faith in God. Yes, why David begins to raise this question. David goes even further, and not just to say why, but he says, my God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer, by night, but I find no rest. Yes, for many of us who are here, those are the most painful moments, is when we're crying out to God and God does not answer. When we're calling out to God and he seems to not hear our cry. Yes, David understood something about this. David understood something about this pain. David goes on to say, you brought me out of the womb. In other words, to say you brought me out of darkness only to bring me into more darkness. He says, you made me trust in you. Even at my mother's breast, he says, from birth I was cast on you. From my mother's womb you have been my God. But he says, do not be far from me, for trouble is near and there is no one to help. You see, what gives me some shouting news here tonight is that while David was asking why, if you keep on going in the scriptures a little bit further, you'll get to not just Psalm 22, but you'll end up in Psalm 23. And you'll see that as David began to say why, that as David flipped the pages in his life, that he went from saying why to why not. That's why David says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He says, he maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restored my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And David says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, and thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. He says, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. He says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I wish I had a witness in here today, because sometimes you can keep asking God why. But I challenge you today, turn the page so you can say, the Lord is my shepherd. Have I got a witness in here tonight? Is there anybody here tonight? You can testify that I went through a storm, but God was with me. I looked like it was over, but God was holding my hand. I felt like throwing in the towel, but when I think about the goodness of Jesus and all he's done for me, my soul, I said my soul cries out, hallelujah. Give somebody a high five and tell them, stop saying why and why not. You ought to walk like you're a child of God. You ought to talk like you are a child of God. You ought to show the devil, you thought you had me, but I'm still standing on my own 2 feet. Is there anybody here tonight that you can say to the devil, I used to say why, but now I got a testimony and I say why not? Teresa, you may have had to go through a heart surgery, but now you can sit up here and move from saying why to say, God, I'm still giving your name the praise. Why not give God the praise tonight? Bless his holy name. You've got to learn how to move from why to why not. You see, if David would have stayed where he was, he would have kept on asking why. But just like Jesus said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Then he comes back and he says, not my will, but thy will be done. Oh, I got to say that again. He said, not my will, but thy will be done. And when you understand that you're operating in the will of God, you know everything's going to be all right. I got to go ahead and give you this as we stand on our feet. You know, we wanted to let Miles have an experience that I had when I was growing up, and that was having a car. So probably the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life, but I did it and got him a car. And got the call on Friday, and by that Monday, he had an accident. Thank God. This is like 2 months ago, so I'm telling y'all something. We didn't pray. The boy's fine. Amen. Had an accident. I said, oh, my God. I said, okay, Miles, you all right? He said, yeah, I'm fine. He said, Dad, you upset? I said, no, because I got insurance. I said, the main thing is that you all right. Got the car fixed. A little bit later, made him work for it. He had to pay me, and so I could pay the people. And then he was driving about 3 weeks. I said, oh, we could. Get another call. I'm in Atlanta by this time, and Dad. Anytime I say Dad like that, know what time it is. What's up, Miles? Had an accident. You okay? I said, now you know you ain't driving no more. We got to get you to Atlanta right now. Get you to Morehouse. But he asked me one day, he said, why is it that you would not obsess? First of all, that you're fine. I said, but secondly, that's why I have insurance. I said, because when I had an accident, my mother said, I would just want to make sure you're okay. She said, because the insurance is like a will. She says that because I pay something, that when I need it, I can use it. Oh, I'm trying to help somebody here today. And the reason why you can move from saying why to why not is because when you trust in him, When you need him, oh my God, I wish I had a witness in here tonight. You can use him. Yes, that's how we can begin to really move from why to why not. It's because we know that we rest in the will of God. There's somebody here tonight.